Z and how the move from generation X to Z might influence the usage of private label brands. So the topic, as I titled it, is Generation Z's altruism and performance values linked to private label preference. This is a link we discovered in our research, and I'm happy to report a bit about this research now. This is a project which I'm doing with my colleague Joachim Hurt from the Westphalia University of Applied Sciences, also Germany. And we've worked on that quite a bit, and here are some first results. I have organized the short presentation. I will try to catch up a bit on time into these 4 steps. I will give some starting points. Of course, we'll mention the research question and the design, and let you know some findings and ideas we have with this research. So first, let me have a look at the background for our research. And first we need to have a look at private label brands. Private label brands are brands that are owned by a retail chain. So in difference to a manufacturer brand here, or a national brand here, we have a retailer and his own brands. Do you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
that's fine.
Because I thought there was a problem. Okay, so private label brands are an interesting subject to study because during the last decades they have developed to be real competitors to national brands. They have covered up in terms of quality and acceptance in the market, and retailers, especially in Germany, they have gained enormous market shares with private label brands. In the table on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see some important research that has been done regarding private label brands. And I've organized them according to the antecedents and the dependent variables. So this is just a hint to the amount of research that has really been done on this topic. So private labels have been an interest in the interest of research for years already. Now moving towards the second pillar of our background, it's Generation Z, which is defined by consumers that are born 1995 and afterwards, and they are discussed as being in contrast to Generation X and X and Y, especially when looking at their lifestyles and their values. As lifestyles and values impact on shopping behaviors, our idea was that it must be researched how this change of generations, and accordingly this change of values, impacts on acceptance and usage and preference of private label brands. And as you see in the little table I included here, Generation Z is characterized by values like family beliefs, confidence, authenticity, self-actualization, peer acceptance, and so on. And they communicate in a different way if you compare it to Generation X and Y. So what is, or is there a link between changes in the generations and usage and acceptance of private label brands? That is basically what was our interest, and that is what is our overall research question for this more exploratory approach we are still taking here. So the overall question is, how does the upcoming generation's value system relate to private label brands' purchase or acceptance? So is there a link, and what is the link? in order to get a bit on with this, with these questions, we started a first study using a sample from a German drugstore, a drugstore survey. And it was more than 3,000 participants we had in there, and it included more than 2,500 consumers which were 1995 born and later. It was an online survey, and we distributed it via the social media channel of this drugstore that cooperated with us. So we could use their panel to approach the participants. They were motivated by participating in a lottery, and the questionnaire was about 5 minutes time long. In the questionnaire, we included measures for values of Generation Z, which were taken from an established research project by the German Ministry for the Environment. So it was tested and established scale we had there. We also measured for attitude towards the brand by using measures for quality evaluation and measures for worthiness of private label brand purchase. And as mentioned, we are in an exploratory stage, so we tried to find out whether there are links, whether there are patterns we can identify when looking at how gendered consumers judge private labels. Our first step was to factor analyze the results or the value items, and we came up with 4 factors which we called altruism, which included items like I'd like to help others or I engage in political life. A second one was the performance dimension, which included items like, for me, it's important to have a professional life or to be successful in professional life. Then we found the hedonism factor, which is about enjoying life, making new experiences. And we also, as a 4th factor, found a sense of family, which is like having a trustworthy partner or a good family life. So we could first of all establish a kind of factorial structure for the values of Generation Z, which are not completely different to factors which have been found before. And then interestingly, and this is the main finding from our operation here, we could find correlations between factors and quality evaluations of private label brands, especially a correlation between the altruism values. So the more altruistic the persons, the consumers were, the more they scored for the idea that private label brands are superior, even superior to national brands. Also, we found that performance orientation is linked to some evaluations of private label brands. Interestingly, sense of family has none or has no influence at all, and performance orientation does not link with the quality evaluations. So this is not a kind of testing of hypothesis. This is more an outset now for further research, because here we think here we have an interesting link which needs to be further researched, and that is what we would like to do next. So we're quite proud that we have addressed this point and that we have made a first step towards establishing this link. We know that this link, or if we can prove this link to be more substantiated, we know that this will have, or this will impact on positioning and targeting issues of private label brand management, and also on the communication policy in brand management. So I think this will be very impactful, but it needs to be researched more. And this is what we want to do. Steps. So it is just an initial, an initial phase to get the ball rolling. And we also know that apart from its exploratory nature, we know this study has a lot of limitations as we have a more female sample in here. We have a German-only sample, and it's from a very specific sector. So there needs to be done more, but we are happy to be able to say that there is something about altruism in Gen Z and the private label usage and preference. So this will be quite promising, and this is why we would like to continue on this research. Basically, this is what I wanted to let you know about our research project. So thank you very much. And if you have ideas, we can discuss this at the end of the session. If you have questions, of course. And if you would like to cooperate on this project, you are always welcome.